So you're thinking of moving to Phoenix or living in Phoenix, maybe you already live here and you just want to know what are the pros and cons? Like why do people enjoy this place? That could be a good question, especially if you visited here in summer. Or why do people not like the place? Like kind of weigh them out. Like is it a good place for you to live? Should you keep staying here? We're going to go through all of that today. I actually moved here from out of state about 6 years ago now. I moved from Southern California. I grew up there, and now that I'm living on my own, I decided to live in Phoenix, and I want to go through the pros and cons, especially coming from a place with better weather than here, typically known as like a great place to live, Southern California, and now I'm living in Phoenix, so I want to go through what are the pros and cons to help you understand should you be living here, should you be moving here. And I made a video similar to this last year, but there's a lot that's changed in the year and also more that I've learned, things that I want to kind of add to my pros and cons list. So even if you didn't watch that, we're going to cover most of that today plus more, or just do the changes. So we're going through the pros and cons of living in Phoenix in 2022 right now. Hello everyone, my name is Trevor Bragg. I'm a realtor here in the area. I want to help you know everything about living in Phoenix. If you're thinking of moving to the area, my email and number are on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me. So today, pros and cons of living in Phoenix. Let's start with a con. Everyone loves the cons, and that's the heat. We're going to get through this quickly because we know that it is hot in Phoenix. But yes, it gets to over 120 degrees in summer. The worst months are going to be June, July, and August, but it's going to be over 100 probably most of May and also most of September, which is pretty crazy to think about. But really, July and August, it's like you almost don't want to be outside. The heat is brutal and it does a lot of things damaging besides just you don't want to go outside for maybe more than like 15-20 minutes. Somehow there's still people like going to football practice and playing soccer outside. I don't know how they're doing it, but you can avoid it pretty easily. I mean, you have air conditioning. You want to make sure your AC in your house is functioning properly before the summer hits, but you get in your air conditioned house, go to your air conditioned car, and go to your air conditioned work. You know, it's like you can avoid it pretty easily, but it is definitely a huge con that over summer, you know, when it's great to be outside, families want to go spend a day at the pool, it's really hot and you want to be in the pool, and hopefully that pool is even cooled. That's something that people will do, is actually cool their pools because it gets so hot here where it's unenjoyable. But the heat does more damage to that. I mean, it makes your car batteries die sooner, you know, it makes paint fade sooner, it makes anything that you're going to leave outside is probably going to get damaged in the heat because it gets so hot, and you know, a lot of plants die off over summer. So there's a lot of things that the heat does damaging besides just being hot itself. And if you haven't seen our scenery, it's mostly desert because we don't have a lot of great plants that can survive through the brutal summer. So yes, easily con number one is going to be the heat. I mean, I can't stress this enough. It does suck. Like, you don't want to be in 120 degrees outside for very long. You'll see a lot of people, even like professionals in their workplace, like they're going to be wearing shorts sometimes over summers just because it's so hot. Now, not all of them, some jobs require it, but you will see people more casual over summer just because of how hot it gets. Now, maybe on the reverse side, a pro to that is I actually really enjoy the weather the rest of the month. So, you know, towards the end of September through the beginning of May, I tend to think our weather is really great here. Like, I can wear shorts and a t-shirt almost year round. Maybe December and January, you're going to want to wear like a jacket every now and then. But, you know, I would never want to wake up and have to shovel snow in the morning. And so that's definitely a big pro for me, is that over winter, we are never getting snow. I don't know if we've ever even had snow in the Phoenix area. I know a few years back we had like a few small locations get their first snow ever, but we do not get snow here in Phoenix. And, you know, it really doesn't even get cold enough where it's like, you know, you have to change anything in your house, like your pipes are never freezing, anything like that. And it's really just good weather except for those summer months because it's so hot. And that's why people come out here during the winter months. So they're called snowbirds. They come out here during the winter month to play golf, to enjoy being outside, sit at the pool in December and January when it's got, you know, 2 feet of snow where they're from. And so it makes a lot of sense because there's very few places in the world where you can go play golf in December and it be 60 degrees out. So I really do enjoy the weather here when you take in the year-round effect to it. Now, it's obviously not going to beat out a place like Southern California. You know, you're near the beach, it's 70 degrees year-round. We can't beat that. But we can beat just about any other place, in my opinion, unless you really enjoy, you know, the snow or the cold. We're not going to get that. We do have Flagstaff close by if you want to go see some snow over in winter. You know, we got snowboarding and skiing up there. But in Phoenix itself, you're not going to have to deal with that. You can really enjoy your pool almost year-round, except for maybe a little bit in January when it's a little too cold. So yeah, the weather in the other 8 months besides summer, I tend to think is a pro here in the Phoenix area. Now the next thing is what Phoenix locals will probably call the biggest con of the last few years, and that is people moving to Phoenix from out of state. Now that doesn't sound like the biggest issue, but the big issue that people can't stand are when people bring the issues of their other state with them. And California being the notorious state that a lot of Phoenix locals, so people who grew up here or have lived here for a while, don't like. And the main reason is because, for one, there's a lot of things in California that we don't have here in Arizona. Obviously, a lot of politics are different here. We are, for the most part, a Republican state. We did vote Democrat for the first time in a while last election. But our governor is Republican, and when it comes to things like taxation, when it comes to regulations on businesses, and obviously prices of just about everything in California, they're going to be much different than here in Arizona. And so the reason a lot of Phoenicians don't enjoy people from California is when they come over and they're going to pay more for houses. So they're going to make our housing prices go up, is what people don't enjoy. Now, I wouldn't say California is the reason that our housing prices have skyrocketed in the last few years, but it definitely plays a factor. And I've seen it myself. A decent amount of my clients have come from California, and they have more cash than the locals that are living here, especially the people that don't own a house. And so there's a little bit of riffraff between the two, that they don't love each other, especially Californians don't know it usually when they're moving here. But people from Phoenix don't like the idea of Californians moving here. And they especially don't want them to bring the things that they didn't like about California, right? Especially if you're moving from a place like Southern California or San Francisco. Those are great areas to live. For the most part, they're going to have more entertainment. They're going to be better known. They're probably going to have better weather than Phoenix. And yet they're moving out of there for a reason, typically because of prices. And so what they don't want is for them to, act the same way coming from California to Arizona. Now, I did that myself, but hey, I grew up in California. I didn't have a choice. And as soon as I had a choice to move, I chose to move here in Phoenix. But hey, if people from Phoenix don't like me, I tend to call myself a local now that I've lived here for a decent amount. I really do call this place home. But yeah, coming from out of state, that is changing our state a decent amount. We're seeing changes, especially when it comes to pricing and especially when it comes to demand. And another con that it's bringing is more traffic. And so our streets are getting more congested, and we're also have so much demand for people moving here and wanting to own here that we don't have enough housing. And so we don't have enough places for people to live, especially when it comes to owning a house, but also rentals are in extremely high demand, almost just as competitive as owning a house. Builders are scrambling all over to try and build enough homes to fit for the amount of people that are wanting to live here. They either can't get enough supplies or they can't get enough workers, and build times are over a year out for most homes for people to move into, unless you're in that higher price range. And so that's definitely a con, is that there's not enough houses for the amount of people moving here. And there's so much demand that it's actually causing the locals to not be able to afford the place they're living. And typically, if people are coming from out of state, relocating, either a great job or maybe they had a lot of equity in their old house in California or a different, bigger city, then they're going to rise that price to be able to afford it and then beat out a local. So that's kind of a reason people don't like, outsiders moving here, is they're beating out the people that have lived here all their lives and then can't afford it. It's really something you can't avoid, but just for you to understand that why Phoenix locals don't enjoy people coming from out of state. Now, on the flip side, you can almost see this as a pro. Our city is the most migrated to city for the past 3 years. Net migration. That means more people are moving here and less people are leaving here than any other metro city in the entire nation. That's pretty crazy, especially when you factor in we don't have as much to offer necessarily as other metro cities like LA or San Francisco. They have probably more businesses. They're going to have better weather. They're probably going to have more entertainment. Yet people are moving here for a reason, and that's because of our affordability. That's because we have some great communities in the area. It tends to be lower crime rate than those areas. So there's other reasons than the main ones. But yeah, we're really in demand, which shows that this is a great place to live. And in my opinion, that's the result I get from so many people wanting to move here, is we are a better place to live than those other metro cities, right? You wouldn't want to live in a metro city where everyone's flocking to get out of the city. So although, yes, it's bringing in higher prices, although it's like beating out locals that are living here, it does show you're in a good spot. And so that can kind of be a pro, but it's also a con when it comes to prices going up. So it's kind of a push-pull there. And more pros to go along with that are going to be that we do have a decent amount of entertainment. So we have all the major sports teams here in Phoenix, right? We have, the Suns, basketball, we have the Mercury WNBA, we got soccer, we got football, we got baseball, we got hockey. I mean, we have every major sports team that you can think of right in the Phoenix area, and they're all really close to each other. I mean, maybe like 30 minutes apart from the farthest two sports teams that we have here in the Phoenix area. So we have a lot of great entertainment when it comes to sports. We always have concerts, like huge, there's country concerts, there's festivals that come here. All the major bands and tours tend to go through Phoenix at some point or another. So we do have a lot of entertainment, and we're growing like crazy. Because we have a lot to offer. Not to mention we have some incredible shopping centers, especially over in Scottsdale. We have cool places to hang out like in Westgate in the West Valley. Even up north we have some great shopping. So there's just a lot of good things to do in the area, and all those I think are some major pros. We were shocked how much there is to do, especially with how close everything is. I mean, we live over in North Glendale, and we can hit just about every major thing, event, shopping center within about 30 to 45 minutes at the longest to get to anywhere. We can get some of the best entertainment there is, the biggest names for concerts within 30 to 45 minutes of our house. That's pretty nice, and that's definitely a pro. And on top of that, another pro just along those lines is that I think our freeway system is extremely well ran. We have a grid system when it comes to the typical roads, and so every north-south street is going to be a number, and then every east-west street is going to be a name. And so all you have to know is that the streets to the west are going to be avenues. So like 10th Avenue is going to be west of Central, which is our center street, and then 10th Street is going to be east. I might have flip-flopped my things there looking at the camera. So our grid system is really easy to navigate, and our freeways are also fairly easy to navigate too, especially coming from California. Our traffic is much, much better than down in LA or down in San Francisco. We just have much better traffic systems. Now, it is starting to get more congested because of how many people are living here and moving here, but in general, I tend to think we have a really good freeway and road system here in Phoenix. Now, maybe the one thing that I would say I think we miss here in Phoenix when it comes to entertainment is going to be the beach. Like, coming from Southern California, being about an hour away from the beach, like we could go there over summer, 5 to 10 times if we wanted to, just make a day trip and come back. We don't have that here in Phoenix. I mean, we have Rocky Point down south, but that's still far away. You can get to San Diego in 6 hours or a short flight over there, but we don't have the beach, and that's a huge con. Like, that's the one thing California will always have over us. That and, the Southern California weather we're never going to beat. But when it comes to entertainment, I do really miss the beach. We don't have much water out here. We do have a few big lakes. Like, we have Lake Roosevelt that's just, I think, 20 minutes north of where I'm living. And so we could go to that, but, it's not the beach. That's definitely something we miss out on. And along with that, so is going to be our landscaping is going to be a big con here in Phoenix for a lot of people. It's not green. Now, there are some parts that are green, down in Arcadia. You're going to have a lot of lush plants, and there's some spots in Scottsdale where they do a really good job of making it pretty. But in general, any open land is just going to be desert. And there's going to be some cactus, but they're going to be really hardy, not extremely pretty plants to look at. So our landscaping is definitely not going to be top in the country by no means. I wouldn't say this is the biggest deal, but some people really like nature. And if you're, really outdoorsy, want to live in the woods, you could live up in Scottsdale where you're going to get, or live up in Flagstaff where you're going to get that, but not down in the Phoenix area. It's going to be a lot of desert, a lot of dirt, and you're going to see a lot of brown things out there. And you're going to see a few green things, a few cactus, a few tumbleweeds, but definitely nothing amazing to look at. I think there is some beauty in it. Like, if you go up on top of a hike and look over the whole scenery, it's pretty cool. We have all these mountains surrounding us, but they're not green. And so that's definitely a con. We don't have the best landscaping here in the Phoenix area. And the last two pros, I think things that really bring people to the Phoenix area is, number one, going to be our communities. We have some extremely well-ran master plan communities here in Phoenix that people love to move to, just extremely well kept, sidewalks, parks, community events, newer built houses. After 2000, we have a ton of those communities, and they're extremely desirable. I mean, let alone everything else that the city has to offer, the community itself, they're just really well built, and we have tons of them all across the valley, from Surprise, Peoria, Glendale, Goodyear. I mean, every city is going to have 2 or 3 great ran communities with all the great amenities that you're wanting. Community pool, rec center, community events. It's just going to be well ran, and so I think that's a huge pro for here. That's one thing I find to be extremely attractive for people coming from out of state. They come and look at homes over here, and there's a big difference between places that don't have that master plan community and the ones that do, and they're just so desirable. Like, they drive through the community, they see all it has to offer, they see the little shopping centers inside of it, the parks. It just attracts people a lot, especially families with kids. You have a walk to the park at just about every house inside of these different master plan communities. So it's extremely desirable. And to go along with that, I think the second biggest pro, or maybe the biggest pro for a lot of people, is that the pricing. So this has changed a lot since my last video, since 2020 especially. We've seen our affordability go straight down. It's just become so expensive to live here, whether you're renting or owning. You have to make a decent amount of money even to rent a place. It's ridiculous how expensive things are. I can't put it any more bluntly that it is expensive to live here, but so is everywhere else, and so is every metro city. So still, although our prices have gone up more than any other metro city in the nation, we've seen the most appreciation because of how many people are living here, because of the things we have to offer. We're still going to be more affordable than any California metro city, than Vegas, than Denver, than Salt Lake City. Really, any West Coast metro city, we are still going to be the lowest priced. And not to mention, we have all those other amenities. So it's not like we're the cheapest and we're like a dumpy place to live. We're still the cheapest. That gap is slowly creeping up to where we're not going to be the cheapest if we continue in this crazy rise, especially this crazy rise compared to other cities that were beating out their appreciation. We can't stay the cheapest forever, but we are still the lowest when it comes to total cost of living. We still have the lowest compared to other metro cities in the West Coast. And so if you're wanting to live in a metro city but not wanting to, $700,000 be your minimum home price, then Phoenix is a great option for you. So yeah, there's definitely some changes we've seen since my last one. Hopefully this video helped you. There's definitely some great pros to living in Phoenix, but there's also some cons. I mean, if you can't stand the heat, then you're probably not going to enjoy the summers. And I must admit, even though I've been here for a while, the summers are brutal. Like, you really don't ever get used to 120 degrees. You just find better ways to avoid it and still enjoy yourself. You just plan your outdoor events, not during summer. So yeah, I've really loved it, but there are some, hopefully this helped you kind of understand, why you maybe should or shouldn't be moving to the Phoenix area. If you want help moving to Phoenix, I'd love to help you out. I am a realtor in this Phoenix area. I work all across the valley, from all the way from Gilbert to Surprise to Buckeye. Pretty much cover the whole area, and just want some questions about different communities, maybe what it's like moving here. If you need help with that moving process, don't want to make any mistakes I did 5 years ago, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, whatever you got to do. My number and email are on the screen here. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to know more about living in Phoenix.